Okay, we're going to get started because it's 12:30. We want to keep everybody schedules going. Thank you for coming. This is an overview of the town meeting warrant. We have a meeting scheduled, special town meeting scheduled for October 16th, and it's very important to note that we've changed the time of town meeting. It's now going to start at 7 p.m. In the past, it was 7:30, but it's 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium on Monday, October 16th. Up here, we have a team of folks ready to discuss their individual articles, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves first to start. Tom, you want to start?
Tom Welch, Chief Assessor.
Chris Gallagher, Public Works Director.
I guess I should have introduced myself. I'm Paige Duncan. I'm the acting town manager.
Bill Yukna, Building Committee.
Mark Craig, Director of Human Services.
So without any further ado, we are going to get right into the articles. And so Article 1, I have Bill and Chris here will discuss this proposal.
So from the Building Committee's point of view, and I think most of you realize we've done a really good job over the last 15 years starting to really make sure we maintain all of our buildings properly so that they last longer. The DPW garage, quite honestly, has not had a lot of maintenance over the years. It's just been maintenance to keep it operational. You know, the town built a new town office down there to separate it out of that building so that A, it would be handicap accessible, and B, that it would have the right facilities for them to operate and manage the DPW. But again, the old offices that were up in the second floor of the DPW were kind of just abandoned at the time and moved out of. The building needs some significant repair, and it needs obviously an expansion. Chris and his team, as well as the building committee, are working on plans on the expansion, which the town approved funding on already. But that will not address the main building. We want to keep the main building because it's important to us for storage as well as maintenance, and we're going to need it all the way through the process of any kind of expansion that does happen there. So our interest at this point is to basically do the general maintenance upgrades that would typically be done after 20 or 30 years on a building, which is a replacement of the roof, cleaning up and repainting of the exterior blockwork to protect it, potentially some new doors and windows depending on needs in individual areas, and a replacement of the heating system, which quite honestly is well beyond its age and could fail at any point in time. We need to keep it maintained through not only the expansion but obviously moving forward. So to that point, we've already gotten pricing on all those major items, and we're approximately in the $500,000 range to accomplish all of that and put that portion of the building back into a good stead for a number of years. I would say easily, to last 20, 25 years as far as serviceable life without any other major repairs, but still potentially for other additional work to be done inside, depending on how the expansion process goes. So that's why this has been forward. We have the funding through the borough project. The way that the projects work in town and have worked for years is any funding that's available after a project is completed can then be moved to another building project. It can only be moved to another building project because it's bonded money. So it's not like we could transfer it to an operating budget or we could turn it back in because of the state statutes. Basically, it goes effectively to any town project that would be then coming forward. That's where the $800,000 came for all of the design engineering for the expansion of the DPW came from the borough project because we've been very fortunate in that borough project. Right now, we have a balance between the $800,000 we've already spent. We have another $600,000. We've got $1.4 million that we did not spend on that project due to the efforts of the town and the building committee on getting the best pricing we could get through the process. We will get, because we've done very well on the project, we got gold certification on Energy Star for the building project over there. We're going to get additional money back from the state. So we probably have another $500,000 at least coming back from the state for that project. So again, we've done extremely well on that project for the town. But that's what's going to be funding this. We're not asking for taxpayers' money at this point beyond what's already been put up for the borough project. Questions?
So you just said, just to reiterate. it would
Excuse me,
cost-
I'm sorry, would you mind just coming
I know.
to the microphone, because they can't hear you at home, so that's,
Oh, it's on TV?
it will be, yes, yes.
good.
Oh, yes, say hello to your
Yeah.
fans.
Hi, there. Yeah, no, so just to reiterate what you just said, that wouldn't come from taxpayers.
It's effectively coming from taxpayers' money that's already
Through-
been
right.
funded
Okay,
in the past.
great. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Joan, come on.
Anything else? You don't need a microphone.
Joan Gallivan, 9 Cannon Voyage Drive. Would that be expending all of the monies that had been left over from other projects and be used there then?
Yeah, so any project, the previous project before the borough project was the library, I believe. That money was rolled into the borough project up front when we did that as part of our funding for the borough project. So that's why we asked for less when we did the borough project, because we did have some funds that rolled forward there.
I read some other things too that when I was looking back at the older reporters, that there were other heating system at the high school, or some other things that you had been mentioned at another meeting when you were talking about the bonding and the debt exclusion and so forth. I'm still trying to understand that. I guess what I'm trying to say is it appears like we usually have a bonding project and we pay that until it is at the end of the project and we've used up the money. Then we will have space to actually continue to make payments, and all towns continue to have needs, things need to be improved or changed or built or whatever. So you don't like change the tax rate and all that. You use that little space, big space, for bonding the next project, and we have something on plans, like a 5-year plan, then a 10-year plan, and we have our capital improvement plan. So I guess I'm just trying to understand, and I guess maybe I'm going to take some more meetings, because you're not going to be able to explain it all to me, but so we had certain ones that had monies left over, and each time we've sort of reused it. So you're saying the only one that had been any monies left was from the library? Is that what you're
It
saying?
moved from the library to the borough, and now the borough is the only open outstanding.
It's the only one now.
I think what you're referring to, Joan, is that obviously in our bonding capacity, within the debt, without asking for taxpayers to come up with money, we always have older debt that is cycling off. We bond for 20 years at a time for a project, typically. There are some that would be less or some that could be more. But let's just do a hypothetical number and say that we had a bonding capacity of $100 million. We went out and bonded to do all these projects, and then 20 years later, a portion of it dropped off, $10 million dropped off. We have $10 million worth of room before the taxpayers would effectively see an increase in their tax rate because of that. This is not that. This is strictly, once we fund a project as a town and we go out to bond it, the only way that money that isn't used can be used is on another building project. So what we're saying is the borough project, which is 99.99% complete because we have just a few open items with the GC that we're fighting over. In the end, he's going to end up giving us more money back because he didn't do certain things that we wanted. But so because we're that far into it and because we have this large amount of money that's left over and we have projects now coming forward, rather than come to taxpayers and say, okay, we'd like you to bond another X amount of dollars, and these are relatively small amounts of money we're talking about. You don't bond to $500,000. It's just not financially or fiscally responsible. You bond a $20 million project or a $30 million project, but you don't bond something this small. So having that money available to us as a town to move into a new project is the town's right to vote to say yes. Now, a town could say, no, we're not going to spend it on that project. We want to keep it for another project. But what the building committee and what the DPW is asking for is that We see this as a very important project to keep the town, from a safety point of view. All of our equipment goes through this building, and it will take a couple years, even if the town approves the expansion. If the town doesn't approve the expansion, we need this building, period. We don't have a choice. So we want to maintain this building like we've maintained every other building in town, and we want to put this money into it to bring it back up to a good standard.
Okay, I don't think we're going to have much objections. It sounds, everything has been presented, has been looked over, and you're doing a great job creatively to be able to manage to bring this building up to standards. But the other thing is that I think some of us might be interested in is that the next project was the community center. Now, that's not on the warrant here. We're probably not going to end up having much discussion, but I want discussion on that. And I think you especially have let that go. It was the next project listed, and you were on the Capital Building Committee as well as being the business manager up at the school department. And there was a time when you were talking about, as I said, I've read a little bit of the old reporters trying to get up on, myself up on this. I try to remember, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on. The planning board or the selectmen, our new town manager and so forth. All right.
So let me address that, Joan. I didn't let it go. We pushed very hard, and we used funding to demolish the old laundry building that was on the state property, because it gave us a site for future use, whether it was Council on Aging or Council on Aging and Recreation. We needed the site first. Couldn't do anything without a place to put this. It's a prime location. It's a acre and a half of beautiful
Well, I don't
flat
think you
land.
need to talk us into it. I still think that that's one of the things
But
that's
that's not the building committee's
left
decision
to have
to
a
make.
site, and that is one of the things that could be worked on in the next year. And this is one of the things that I'm trying to encourage people to not, let it be put on a. You just turned off my microphone.
There's a button on there that you're probably pressing.
They must have touched it, which I love to do. Oh.
Yeah. So
Anyway, so as I say, it's not part of this warrant, but also in one of the articles, Mark Elfman, chairman of the select board right now, was appointed an ad hoc committee chair, and I even have some other people's names. I'm not going to mention them right now, but they haven't been contacted. There really is no other committee that's in process now. We've had people down at the senior center. They had a group down there. An awful lot of preparatory work was done. So I want to see this and hear that this in the process. So that's why I'm bringing up about the funding, because I don't want you to be giving, or you won't be, but the selectmen and whoever the town manager is, using up that funding in another way. And that brought me to a meeting last night, which was suggesting we use some bonding to do some sidewalks. And I think that's a terrible choice at this point. I realized I wasn't at the town meeting, and the whole lot was discussed about sidewalks, but we even have more information. Back in 2019, we were talking about planning, about sidewalks maintenance and the need for it. But I think that could be worked out in other ways. I've got some creative ideas myself, and I know we collect monies and we don't know really where they go. Room and meals tax, the monies that come from the water tower up at the stadium, the new billboard income that we're getting. There's just a number of things that need to be thought about, and it needs to be thought about and brought in underneath a town manager. So I don't want to jump anything quickly. We do have some plans, and I think we should work on those. And I think you'd have some enthusiasm and some support. But people just don't come up and tell people what to do. You are telling us what you're going to do.
So if I could just chime in, because I know what you're talking about with the debt exclusion for the sidewalks. That was a result of a sidewalk survey. It was a discussion. It was raised as a possibility, and it's not something that the board is currently entertaining. What they did say is to our finance director, Marie, is bring that forward to the financial summit, which is scheduled for December 5th at 6 p.m., by the way. That will just be looked at and presented as what it is. It's not something that's currently under consideration. It's not something that the board is pushing for. I'm not even sure that DPW is pushing for it, but it's sort of acknowledging this sort of pressing need for sidewalks. A town meeting, the last couple town meetings, there's been some strong movements towards sidewalks. So we're not going to be able to do this in a small fashion, so it's one technique. I don't think anyone is saying that that's what we're doing. It is just a consideration that was raised, and it will be further presented for discussion purposes.
But I just wanted to make a point of that's what it was. It was just something suggested. But we really should be considering what's already in place here. That's all. I just want to make sure. I may have other questions. Bye-bye.
Can you come up to the microphone just so the folks at home can hear you?
You're not gonna like it.
We are going to love it.
I cannot see. This is a fence.
I know, yeah.
We cannot see with these here. Is there a need if no one's
Nope,
sitting?
absolutely.
Thank you. Can't see all the pretty faces. I can't even see you at all. I can see the handsome guys.
We didn't know if people were going to want to sit down, but clearly that didn't work out. So everybody, it's fine. Everybody's standing.
Plus, I don't hear well, so. Okay, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Now we can see you. Any other questions on this first article? Okay, thank you. So Article 2 has to do with our beloved Council on Aging. So we're going to pass this over to Mark and let him discuss what's being proposed.
So the Council on Aging, the Senior Center, operates all of its trips and programs based on revolving fund, which is essentially the money that comes in from a tripper program goes out to pay for that tripper program. So something like the Adirondack trip this past weekend generated additional funds that those then funds pay for more free programs. And that's been like that since the beginning of time. Other departments, such as the rec department, when they collect money from trips or programs, the money can be used to pay for programs, but also used to pay for part-time staff too. So this article essentially is asking the town if they would support a similar motion that the rec department offers to what the senior center could offer, meaning that money that comes in from programs can pay for additional part-time staff. So if you kind of extrapolate that out, maybe we could be open on a Friday afternoon because programs would be coming in on Friday. Yoga would generate money. I'd be able to hire additional part-time staff to staff the building so the building would be able to be open. And we can continue that along if maybe that means Saturday mornings we could be open. Maybe that means a couple evenings more we could be open. It's not an additional, it wouldn't be the full-time staff staying around, but we'd have part-time staff operating. It's a very similar, I did this in a couple of other communities. It's just the money that comes in from things we can then spend on part-time staff, which just makes us have more programs, which generates more additional funds too. So it's kind of a cut and dry article that's just basically changing the authorization to pay for part-time staff in addition to our current trips and programs.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions on this one? Pretty easy.
It's a good idea.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Okay, our next article is going to have to do with our assessor, so that is why we have Tom here. So Tom, can you give us an overview of this article?
Yeah, so the key to this article is we're trying to increase the tax break for a small business. Currently, there's a personal property exemption of $750 on the books, and we're going to increase that to $5,000. So this is strictly for a small business. It doesn't affect the residents at all. But what it does is it allows 200 additional businesses to get a tax break for small business. And we think that's obviously a good idea. Anytime we can give a tax break, we'd like to do it. And it's under the town has already approved this in 2011 under their article for the $750. So this is just an increase from the $500 limit to the $5,000. I'm sorry, the $750 limit to the $5,000 limit. And it also will make things run more efficiently in the finance office. We'll have less uncollectible bills, which is related to the personal property. Not a lot, I shouldn't say not a lot, but some people don't pay the personal property bills, and then they become uncollectible bills. This will hopefully lower that amount that is uncollectible. And that's basically a summary of that article.
Tom, is that, just to try to understand the benefit to the average taxpayer, do the uncollected bills go against free cash? Is that something I heard, or is there some reason why that's a disadvantage, or like, what is the overall win, in addition to the 200 businesses, what is the win for the taxpayer in general?
It doesn't really affect it doesn't affect the residential taxpayer at all. It's strictly a benefit to the commercial tax base.
Okay.
For small business.
But you're right, Paige. I think, and maybe you probably don't even understand what personal property taxes are because you as individuals don't pay that. I own a piece of property in another town where I don't live, therefore they charge me personal property taxes on my refrigerator, any kind of electronic devices I have there or stuff like that. So it's an additional tax on top of their real estate taxes that they already pay. So what they're saying is to have a reduction in not having to pay for the first $5,000 worth of items that they would classify as personal to charge them additional money in taxes. So we're not charging for that first $5,000. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. Thank you for that. Yep.
Go ahead, Joan.
Joan Gallivan, 9 Cannon Forge Drive. I still don't understand it. Personal property tax. I have a business in town. I'm paying a personal property tax.
You should be.
It-
In what tax am I doing that?
I don't know, it depends on the equipment that you have, I don't know what kind of business you have, but if you have,
Yeah, we fill out a form every year.
yeah, the formal list.
That you have to list, the income you get and all of that kind of stuff.
That's a different one, that's an income and expense report, how much money your business is making, so we can come up with an accurate value on your property. But the
Okay.
formal list is a list of all the business equipment that you have, so that we can tax it
Okay.
appropriately.
All right, you don't have to register for that. So some businesses may not have been
Charged.
registered for that and not receive a personal property tax, actually.
That's true.
Right now, anything under $750 in value doesn't get taxed. We're trying to get that to 5,000, so it gives a bigger break to more
Oh, I see.
businesses.
Okay, so less business will have to even report that.
Yeah, they'll be exempt.
Got it, I think. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions on that one? So now we're up to two very exciting articles that have to do with street acceptances, near and dear to my heart. But I'm going to turn it over to Chris, just because he's the guy who does the inspections. And we also have Lance here, who does the inspections as well. So Chris, you want to walk us through this?
Sure. So the River Ridge subdivision is a small two-street subdivision down off of East Belcher Road that was approved by the planning board for construction a few years back now. They have gone through and built that subdivision, those roadways, according to the planning board subdivision rules and regulations. As with most streets that are built to that spec, they then come looking for the town to take over those roads and become public right-of-ways. Lance and I have been out there over the last couple of years doing the inspections, watching the drainage get built, watching the water main installation, the sidewalk construction, curbing, paving, street lights, all the fun things that go into building new roadways. They have completed that project. Both Barrows and Sousa's have a waiting period after they pave and after they plant all the street trees of a year. They have made it through that 1 year waiting period. They have now approached the town looking for those roads to be accepted at town meeting. Once town meeting votes, they will become public right-of-ways. We will add them to our Chapter 90 appropriations, which will get us a little bit more money from the state for our paving program and sidewalk program. Again, Lance and I have both been out there doing those inspections and recommend that they both be accepted by the town.
Come on up if you have a question.
I don't know if it's related, so maybe I'll ask offline.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. And so that is it for the articles on town meeting. We're hoping that it's a short one, but it's also important we get 100 people there. So if you could come and bring a buddy, we would really appreciate it. I know one of the main reason we're holding this town meeting is the DPW building and the concern about the systems out there and making it through the winter. So it really is important. All our roads and our plows that are kept there and maintained there. So it is important that that building remain operational. So we're hoping people understand that this is really an important meeting. And the good news is getting these 5 articles out of the way means fewer, well, it might not mean fewer articles in May, but kind of it might. So stay tuned for May. We'll have a lot more. But And that concludes our session. Thank you so much for coming today.
Not having another town meeting like we usually do later. This is in place.
This is the fall town meeting, and then we'll have our next town meeting in May. Yes. Last year was January, which was very late. Usually it's November-ish. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.